Basically, the Greek troops were outside the walls. I mean, it can't have been exactly this spot, but this is as good a place to tell the story as any. Alexander thought the troops were slacking. He put a siege ladder against the wall, and he went up himself, led the troops. Behind him were only three men, two of his bodyguard, one of them holding the sacred shield from Troy, and another an NCO, Avreas. And Alexander held his shield above him, and up he went. And here's the Macedonian siege ladder itself. Yeah. Macedonian siege ladders were as wobbly as this one.
As they reached the top, the weight of the troops behind broke the ladder, leaving the 4 men on their own.
Salam! It's all right, I'm only a Macedonian soldier. When Alexander got onto the top, he crouched on the top of the wall, says Arian, behind his shield. The other 3 men came up with him. And then, at that moment, surrounded by Indian defenders, exposed on the wall, he took his life into his own hands and leapt into the fortress rather than outside, leaving the rest of the army behind. Then the Indian defenders closed in on him, and he was forced to throw stones at them, beat them off with his sword and so on. The rest of the army behind, panic-stricken, tried to find a way of getting into the city, while the 4 men desperately defended themselves. The NCO Avreas was hit by an arrow in the face and killed, and then Alexander himself was struck by an arrow that went in the open bit underneath his armor straight into his lung. He collapsed on the floor, bleeding profusely, and the bodyguard Pevkestas straddled him, holding the sacred shield from Troy and trying to beat off the Indian attackers. You can imagine the paramedics rushing Alexander back to the camp. Meanwhile, panic spread through the army. They feared that with Alexander dead, they'd never see home again.
They went berserk and massacred everyone in the city. Alexander's surgeon prepared to operate. Critoboulos of Kos had been his father's doctor. He'd once taken an arrow from King Philip's eye. Over the years, Alexander had taken punishment which would have stopped an ox. Leg and thigh wounds, a catapult bolt in the shoulder, 21 wounds in all. This, though, was the most serious. His lung was pierced. The story here is that the arrow was poisoned and that Alexander never really recovered. Now, the Greek historians don't mention this, but the traditional doctors here, the Hakims, claim descent from Alexander's doctors. They practice what they call Greek medicine, so perhaps they should know. But poison or not, both doctor and patient knew that Alexander was very close to death. For a week, Alexander's life hung in the balance. Then they gently floated him along the river so the army could see he was alive. They cried with relief. They still loved him. The journey down the Indus took from November until the next summer, fighting all the way. Alexander founded another Alexandria at the confluence of the rivers. In July, he reached the Indus Delta. His fleet explored the arms of the Indus, and its journey has been pieced together by Monique Quevran.